Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming today. So one of the topics you guys wanted me to cover is gestures. I will be doing hands. It's a high time we did some hands, but it needs kind of an extensive lesson because there's going to be quite a bit of talk about form and form structure and perspective. That's the biggest thing about hands. If I can just do a quick blurb on hands, that's the biggest thing on hands is the perspective. Sometimes we forget there are blocks and that there is a level of stacking, a level of compression, and bending and malleability. And it's a combination of both structure, anatomy on the skeletal level, and form on the skeletal level, and anatomy on the flesh level, and form on the flesh level. That's why hands are so difficult because it's many layers of form, many layers of rotation, and many layers of perspective. All of that combined together makes a very complicated three-dimensional subject for our simple 2D minds to generate. That's why everyone has such a hard time with hands. It's very difficult on its own just to rotate a cube in our minds, let alone rotate a full-on structure, a full architectural, intricate like collection of digits. So that's why hands are so difficult. So if you do have to do hands soon, before I get to the video, just remember that there's a part of perspective, and there's a big part of perspective in it, and try to approach it that way by questioning your perspective. Are you thinking about perspective, how you're seeing the cube? Are you separating bone from flesh? Are there areas that are supposed to be rendered with thought of bone and harder brushstrokes versus areas that are flesh that are supposed to be wrapping as if drapery um, on a table? The way the skin wraps around in between the fingers, skin acts very differently there than the bones on the knuckles. So that's why hands are so difficult. I have a problem with hands too, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Base says, hands, oh my god, so ridiculous. I always have to take pictures of my own hand and trace over it to get the basic form. So all my pictures have shrimpy little girl hands. Yeah, I always draw my men with girl hands. Tracing is a good alternative to dealing with, not only do you have to deal with all that stuff, but you have to copy something or take it out of your head. But remember, tracing, you're only getting the full outline. You're not getting the complete form, the complete blueprint. Can anyone describe to me what I mean by blueprint before I get into this critique? Let me just. I think I'm actually gonna go to bed. Bye bye, Glynis. The anatomy of it, the parts that make up the hand. That plus the construction of the form. Perfect, Flix. The construction of the form, exactly. The actual, the modeling level, at the 3D modeling level, the most basic polygons, the most basic cubes, and their wiring before you give the faces any color. That's what I mean by blueprint. So if you think about that for hands, it's very it closes the margin of difficulty very, very quickly. All right, so let's talk about this piece right here that Christy is having trouble with. The body is too large. So I'll say what's wrong and then I'll explain why it's wrong. The body is too large for the head. The arch was too pronounced for the... Basically, she was doing a pinup without the... It was like a very stiff pinup. So it was a very... it was too planned. No, that's not a good way to say it. What's a good way to say it? You drew this without gesture lines. You drew it without really planning the gesture in that way. But you did just go straight in and kind of throw in whatever you had in your visual library when it came to the female body. You probably looked at a reference, and the reference was a completely different kind of pose than what we have here for this character. So yeah, you want to make a sexy aviator lady, but you can't just pick up any reference and expect it to work and match the I guess the props of the image. It'll look too cliche. So you've got very, very cliched pose that is executed in a very stiff way. You have not planned it around the anatomy, meaning you have not planned it along a gesture line, and the anatomy itself has not been measured proportion-wise. Those are all the problems that I listed just now with this image. So I can go and fix it and straighten out the symmetry. The symmetry was one big massive problem when breast was all the way down, because we're looking at her directly straight. Everything seems to be straight. Um, and that was one of the things sort of standing in the way of the believability. The breasts kind of feel like they have more support than they really do. They're acting like they have more support than they really do. So you've rendered them along a very unrealistic defiance of gravity. And the pose again, the spine in this torso is very unrealistic. It's very, very stiff. If you ask a woman to pose like as straight as she can, pretty much this is what she'll get. If she doesn't pose as straight as she can, she'll probably get a sort of C shape and there will be a crease in the belly. If she's posing extra opposite of that C, so an extra level of curvature outwards, so meaning the pin-up pose, then at that point you'll get that sort of exaggerated C, but her shoulders weren't telling us that story. Something very strange happens to the neck when the body does that, which you weren't telling us. The neck is very relaxed and the head is very relaxed compared to the level of stiffness and pushed kind of pose that you had with the torso. So it's like she was flexing, but then her head was pretty relaxed as she was doing it. Also, the arm is very stiff. The pose is very stiff and very deliberate. And why would you want to show off a flexing character to begin with? Why would you, if you were trying to show off a character that is, related to flight and all of that, really just making her pose like a female bodybuilder. That's pretty much where it was before. So let's see what. Come on, you can do it. Oh, there it is. Shit. Is there a lag, by the way, guys? So this is pretty much what what I was seeing. This one right here. This is what I was seeing. This one's more relaxed. I'm seeing more like that exaggerated arch. Like this is what I was seeing with her. I'm so sorry about this, guys. But the way you were posing her, this extra arch, and then see, the head doesn't really feel very relaxed. It feels very stiff, extremely close to the neck. And that's kind of where you were coming from. And that didn't feel very, very elegant and very, like, it didn't feel like the kind of character design poses that we usually see, and that's kind of what made it a little less easier to look at. Let me show you what I mean. Before, do you guys see that? This real pout happening with her body that we see the equivalent of in the female bodybuilders that we just looked at. I'm sorry if you have any lag. I think someone in my household is playing League, but that shouldn't have anything to do with my upload speed. I'm not really downloading anything or using any ping. So if anything, they should be having the low ping. Sorry. But yes, do you guys see the problem? Does anyone? Yeah, Christy? Good. So the shoulders now, the level of relaxation in the head pose. The head is much more to the size of the body. The breasts are a lot more symmetrical. I do recommend looking up a different kind of breast. So don't limit yourself to one language or one language of breast. Increase your breast vocabulary. You don't have to draw the big double D push together push up bra kind of breast every time you draw. Sometimes shrinking that size, making it a little less pronounced and a little more elegant adds to actually the characterization. It actually adds to the character. So if she had like a simple string bikini top over very modest breast, it would read more to her tomboyish nature. So you don't have to draw the cliche big boobs, I like big boobs because I'm a guy kind of thing every time you draw. Um, it's kind of getting old. So try to increase your boob vocabulary so that we see a little bit more variety in the breasts that we draw. Also, this line right here is a very misunderstood line. This is the line when you have really strong, very, very developed abs. This is usually covered in a nice level of elegant fat when it comes to females. You probably, again, don't want to settle for the super I do P90X kind of body shape. If she is not any kind of brute, if she is not a axe slinger, if she is not some sort of wrestler character, if she's just an assassin who flies, I don't think she has time to really build her whole entire muscle structure and do legs every Tuesday and arms and upper body every Thursday. I think what you should do is rethink the entire characterization, what you're really telling us about this character. This extra build here is kind of just something you threw in. I want you to think about something before you throw it in. If what I was saying about this line is there needs to be more, it needs to be more pronounced along the actual abs. We're not seeing any suggestion of extra development on the abs. So all she managed to do was create the perfect symmetry between both ab sides, but for some reason, as she was working out, the abs themselves did not develop. That is not proportionate or real. If you look at your reference, you will see, even if the lighting is off, you will see there is some level of development in this ab structure. If there isn't, then you've misrepresented this line. This line should just be a thicker shade, should not be represented with a line. Let's see what people are saying. Small boobs are harder to draw. Exactly, Moazanda, because you guys are so, big boobs are easy to draw because the elevation is higher, therefore the edge work is higher, and you can represent these boobs with a simple line or not blending the back. When it comes to smaller breasts, you have to think a little bit more, and you have to choose wisely where you're placing these values, how you're shading along these values, and how much exposure of the chest area we have before we even have cleavage elevation. Cleavage elevation is what everyone goes to when they think boobs. When I say boobs right now, all the guys in the whole room are thinking circle beside a circle bunched up together and like cow udder sized nipples. That's pretty much what guys think because their mamas did a good job raising them. So please don't just think like that. Again, increase your boob vocabulary. There are different kinds, and if you limit yourself to one kind of body type, you will always draw that body type. That's the core of the lesson right now. Don't limit yourselves to one body type. Educate yourselves a little bit on the different kinds of body types and what they can say about your character. If this was given to a creation, some sort of studio that was responsible for developing characters for a game, they would not let this go. They would be very mad about this. It's very weird. Why does she have such a built body type and she is sort of a lightweight assassin kind of character that you're representing? You don't get away with this kind of stuff in the industry. It's better to sort of tackle these issues now. You have to think about every level of the design, even the body, even the color of her hair, even the choice of clothing that she makes, even her tan lines, if she's tanned or not, if she has scars or not, if what kind of hair thickness does she have? Does she have curly hair? Does she have short hair? That says a lot about the character. So that's when you're designing a character, you have to think about all of that. Don't just bring in any cliche snapshot in your mind of a body and use that in your images, all right? Do some studies first. So there's that. What else can I say? Let me see what everyone is saying. I think it depends on how it fits with their individual body. Leg day. Exactly, that's true. That's true. Yes, ma'am. The science checks out. Does anyone have any questions regarding this? Christy, do you have any specific questions? Please don't go outside and stare at girls' titties, though. Let's build our vocabulary in the confinement of your own rooms, please. Yes, thank you, Asma. Perfect. I don't think I have any more questions. No, Mom, I'm not watching porn. I'm just increasing my boob vocabulary. Should we rely more or less on stereotypes when designing characters and then trying to subvert them? Excellent question, Wilhelm. Start with the stereotype. please start with the stereotype. It is much more easy to add uniqueness to simplicity than adding simplicity to uniqueness. It is much harder to start off with the madness of your creativity and expect it to match what other people want. It's good to start with what other people want and then bring in that extra little you addition to the creativity. And then bring in the simplicity through that, or the uniqueness through that. Do not start with complication. Do not give me a character that is designed like this, because one reason why those Final Fantasy characters are so hard to look at is because of of the inversion of that technique. They started with difficulty and then they went into uniqueness. I hate the way they designed characters in Final Fantasy. They really started with that, let's do something different and not work with tropes. And they ended up adding these strange costume artifacts, strange descriptions on characters, what these characters really are all about. Everyone was looking like they were going to a cosplay party before the word cosplay was even invented. There is no really talk about what the specific character trope they're emerging from: sorcerer versus gunslinger versus whatever. Start with the stereotype first. Start with the trope and then accessorize it. Do not start backwards, because you will have character design that will be excess and very busy in its design, meaning you will have a character that has a bodybuilder over really delicate talk about or really delicate symbols on their actual job in life. What's she doing with a body that strong if she's going to be staying in the air, or she needs a machine to do her daily activities in her game environment? So don't start crazy, start simple and then accessorize. I think you have to fully understand stereotypes and why they exist before you subvert from them. Excellent, Tony. They all look like visual Kai artists. They really do. Very interesting. Character design bingo. Basically just a smattering of everything you can think of. Exactly. And it doesn't look good. It doesn't read well. I mean, why is your gun that heavy? Maybe if you had like a really built body type, it would explain why your gun is so big and how you can carry that gun. If you depend too much on, hey, well, it's fantasy, then it's going to look flimsy. You're gonna have flimsy character design is reflected on flimsy understanding of characters. In a narrative, if you are studying literature or studying costume design or studying fashion, there is always a narrative, an underlying narrative. Ask any fashion designer. He'll design 3 different versions of the same fabric of the dress for 3 different women. He'll say, this is for the nightgown, this is for the sensitive night, the I don't even know, God, I have no discourse in this department. This is for the night party, the evening gown. This is for the flapper. This dress will be a shorter version. This will be for that girl that is going out with her friends. And see, there's a narrative behind every design level when it comes to visual design of anything, be it a painting or something real that people are going to wear. There's always a narrative. So start with the simple and then accessorize it. Just because the short dress, I'm basically referring to that one Lebanese designer. I forgot his name. You think if it was important. So if you are drawing the short dress for the girly sporty kind of version of that night dress, you still accessorize it with elegance, with like a low V-neck and low strings, and it still looks elegant, but it's still short. And then you've got the fully kind of elegant full night party kind of gown. And it's the same thing, but you can make this sporty as well, so you can cross those tropes over and make this sporty and give it a frilly short sleeve instead of giving it that long sleeve or no sleeve to add to the elegance. It'll look very boring. That's basically what the trend is nowadays. Start simple and then complicate it, or cross over different departments. Does everyone know what I'm saying? Zuhair Murad. Excellent. Thank you, Asma. If you look at his work, you guys look at his dresses, he basically has 3 versions of every dress. Well, he did that one season. I'm not sure if he did it more seasons than one, but he did that a lot. And one very specific dress that I remember in my mind, it was so beautiful, and he'd made three different versions of it for three different kinds of women. I mean, not a lot of people do that, and it was definitely a narrative that drove that, and the kind of women that buy his dresses. So he said, yeah, well, there's going to be a lady that wants this kind of fabric exactly, but she wants it as a shorter dress, and I'm tailoring to her needs and how she sees herself and how she dresses herself. That's character design. That's not a different department. That's exactly the same thing we come from. So what else do I have to say about this? That's pretty much it. As for her gun, don't just give a character a weapon. Relate that weapon back to themselves. How do they carry that weapon? Where do they put that weapon? If that weapon is part of who they are. Like Dante's Ebony and Ivory. Don't ask me why I know that. I fangirled over him throughout my entire high school years. But his character always had, one big part of his costume was his gun holder, gun thingies, and that was why he had that sort of S&M kind of strap around his thing under his coat. And that's a way to make the weapon make sense. Where does he grab these weapons out of? As for why they are forever ammo, unending ammo, well, he's the son of the devil. And he has as much ammo as he pleases because he's daddy's little baby. um, what else do I have? Kind of feels empty. It's like a deliberate attempt to show her body. That also in itself is a nice thing. It's a nice touch. I've seen a lot of the nude, kind of nude design and playing around with nudes, which is very nice. It's like a minimalism in the nudity, so it's not showing complete nudity or complete dressing. Very limited texture to the clothing. I've seen that a lot in anime and realistic character designs, just kind of balancing the nudity and the clothing and the armor. Still doesn't make sense if you're in the middle of a battle though. Like if you're fighting ISIS and you are wearing this shit, like I don't know what kind of bullet you'd be dodging, but ISIS is gonna get to you. I fucking hate ISIS. What else? That's it pretty much. If you have one more thing, if you have moving fabrics, artifacts that are moving, please make sure that you represent that everywhere else. If she's got something else in her body that can move to the wind, at the wind, be it a string from her bikini, be it more hair, please add that in there. Don't just make hair that is perky as if she's using the most strong gel made out of baby's tears in order to keep the hair that stiff. It's not going to happen. You need to make sure that the atmosphere is a consistent factor in the display of this character, as if they're just standing there and we took a screenshot of them. Dante was my video game husband a couple years ago. Don't judge. Any other questions regarding this? It's really good that you do get a critique because there's a lot of that stuff that is not accessible to you unless someone tears down your tunnel vision and the issues that you don't see on your own, such as today and what we saw with Christie's image. Lots and lots of issues that we just kind of covered a little. The change might be small, but the background issues are great, and the infrastructure of the knowledge is kind of damaged, and you have to go down to the core of the issue before you really fix an image completely and change the way you think about that specific object completely. Art is hard, what can I say? Thanks everyone for coming. Have a great day. Bye-bye.